everyone, Stephanie Sterling down in the murder basement where I'm actually filming my remake of the Battlestar Galactica remake. Anyway,
I don't use the word madness lightly, especially as I'm clinically quite mad myself, proudly I might add, but in the most classically exaggerated, stereotypical definition of the term, the entire media industry has fallen into madness, right? I mean, like, full bore, disconnected from reality, utterly fucking dodo land madness. Be it films, television, and of course video games, I speak as somebody who has covered gaming and the surrounding businesses for almost 15 fucking years now, and I can no longer comprehend what I'm seeing anymore. While we've all found it understandably funny that a game announced both the release date and its cancellation not just in the same day, but the same post, part of me could only shake my fucking head. In isolation, the whole thing's bizarre. In the context of the wider games industry, it's a perfectly absurd picture of the fucking state of things. So either way, ain't nobody wrong for laughing, but Jesus Christ. When you add in the further context of entertainment media writ large, and what we're seeing across the friggin' board, I can't help but regard this whole situation with quiet dread. As ridiculous as it is, and it is fucking ridiculous, it only hammers home to me just what kind of freefall the games business and a whole bunch of other businesses are in. Righty dokey, let's look at this situation specifically. The game in question is Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live, a game I've never heard of and will stop thinking about as soon as I've done writing this script, although the me in the future that is reading the script, that's me, will have just started thinking about it again. Wait, this is actually a really good fucking way to counteract my ADHD. Hello future Stephanie. If you've lost your keys by now, and let's face it, you have, you put them onto the second computer monitor, okay? Oh, holy shit, she's right. Clever girl.
Zilla takes too much time to make a single Oh, come on, how is this my fault?
Anyway, much as I want to brag on how clever and attractive past Stephanie is, clue, she's just like me but younger and less drunk, I must instead talk of Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live, a game I'm going to use the full title of every time, and one that has indeed had news of its cancellation arrive in the exact same announcement as news of its global launch date. Hell of a fucking move. And honestly, hats off to the social media rifle who had to type and tweet this shit just holding their fucking head up and doing it without shame. We're excited to break the news to you that the global version of Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live is launching soon in February 2024. Stated the game's Twitter post, choosing to lead with the good news first. However, we also want to inform you that the global version will close its doors on May 31st, 2024, and cease in-app purchases accordingly. We appreciate the love and support you've shown, and we're committed to making these last few months an unforgettable moment. What the fuck? Somehow that was me failing to do an English accent. What the fuck? Anyway, pro tip to the Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live developers. If you do want to make that moment unforgettable, put it in the script of a YouTube video. Which reminds me, future Stephanie, remember to get the suppository ones at the shop tomorrow. You know the creams don't work. Also, don't read that part out loud. Ah, fuck. 3 months. That's how long the game is gonna last when it launches globally on a yet undecided day in February. 3 months. And that's kind of fucking morbid. It's like the terminal illness of video games. I suppose that's a bit tasteless to say, but I think so long as I don't name any specific illnesses, it won't quite classify as offensive to say. So anyway, this game has achy anus and St. Shriven's disease, and it's only got months to live, which does actually make me want to play it now that I've made it bloody creepy and weird for myself. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to playing with something as it dies. Don't read that part out loud. Ah, fuck! Of course, because video games are video games, and video games have the fucking audacity, it seems the Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live will launch globally with in-app purchases active. Yes, Bushy Road is actually hoping that people will spend money on it, knowing it's literally friggin' dead on arrival. Then again, I think a lot of companies, when they do this, are more banking on swindling purchases out of those who haven't heard the news, and got really into this game they found on their phone before, oops, dead. It's hard hardly a stretch to assume such a cynical motive. In-app purchases are already designed around exploitative swindling, so what's one more scam? But for seriouses, that really ought not be allowed. You should not be allowed to let people invest in a product that's literally gone tits up. But there I go again, expecting a basic standard of ethics and good faith business practices like the dumb I am. It needs to be explicitly clarified, of course, that the game is out in Japan and has been since last year. We're not dealing with such an extreme case that a shutdown was announced before the game had even come out at all, but at this bloody rate it only seems like a matter of time before that happens. Nevertheless, the game wasn't out long at all, even in Japan, and it's still an absolutely incredible thing that does speak volumes about what a fucking mess video games are in. It also continues the trend of evidencing everything I warned about the live service gold rush being a terrible long-term idea that will leave many digital victims in its wake. I've never been able to say digital right. I just did it. As if publishers of other ignominiously shuttered service games haven't already offered so much evidence they could, open an evidence shop. Now that's a dumb analogy. They'd close the store in less than 12 months. But
You're killing me.
the wheels have well and truly fallen off the live service bandwagon, no longer able to sustain the weight of so many games desperately jumping aboard at once. Love Live, School Idol, Festival 2, Miracle Whip's baffling Announcellation, still good, comes off the back of an apocalyptic year for service games, particularly on mobile, where Square Enix alone was responsible for killing off like well over half a dozen of the bastards over a period of several months. One can't help but feel that Square Enix has played a little role in the newsworthy status of Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live. If they hadn't already had people confused and amused in equal measure with the endless parade of service terminations, I dare say the deal with Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live, while still ridiculous, would not be getting this much ridicule. It would have been a weird anomaly instead of what it now is, the perfect encapsulation of that aforementioned freefall. Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live is proof positive that the video game industry is untouchably beyond the realm of parody. In fact, a few commenters have already pointed out that it sounds like a parody you'd see on Hard Drive. A game announcing its launch and cancellation at once really would have been the perfect gag if satirists had thought of it before reality did. But no, this is not satire, it's just a fucking mess. Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live is just one tiny part of a gigantic fucking mess, almost entirely created by executive meddling and corporate profiteering. The writing should have been on the wall over a decade ago, when then EA CEO John Riccitiello complained that historically, the game you bought was the game you got. It's a quote often forgotten by everyone but me, who likes to trot it out now and again to show how fucking twisted the executive mindset is. That he thought just buying and having a video game was a bad thing. But really looking back, it was more than an intellectually offensive dickheaded soundbite. It was also a horrid portent. Even 10 years ago, I complained that publishers seemed desperate to move away from the fundamental practice of just making and selling a damn video game. You know, the job you'd expect the makers and sellers of damn video games to do. But at least back then, back in my day, you did still expect to get a fully finished game, even if it was gonna try and nickel and dime you when you booted it up. Over time though, what I used to call patch culture made it increasingly okay to finish games after they were sold, as more and more products were shipped in unpolished, unfinished states and fixed up with patches on or after launch day. Early access only muddied the water further, initially a rather noble idea that allowed small devs to get funding directly from players while actively developing. Mainstream publishers took the idea and fucking warped it, as they do, producing games like fucking Street Fighter V that were basically released as a digital socket into which the actual game could be plugged once they'd made it. Early triple access, as I've always liked to call it. Patch culture and early access laid some of the groundwork, albeit indirectly and unintentionally, for the arrival of the so-called service game, which became the fad of the late 2010s after Ubisoft put that stupid fucking graphic out that convinced moronic executives that live services were magical money circles that spin around generating forever cash until the end of time. From there, the gold rush happened, and the aggressive messaging that now the game you buy is absolutely not the game you get. It's a hollow promise that may or may not be kept depending on whether or not that promise sold enough copies. It's just considered okay now to publish not games, but glorified proofs of concept. And now in the wake of that frenzied rush, games are failing because they can't stand out from the teeming swarm of games doing the exact same shit they're doing. Bandwagoning in the games industry has always been stupid, as far too many publishers still think simply copying a successful game will also copy its success. But it was especially fucking short-sighted to try and flood the market with games explicitly designed to suck up a lot of the user's time and money. You just can't do that. Time and money is finite, as are the people spending it. There was absolutely zero sustainability in essentially strip mining an audience. I said all this. I said it moments after Ubisoft's magic money circles started showing up online. I said it again when publishers kept talking in interviews about how service games were the future. I said it when a bunch of games started pivoting towards services. I said it when Anthem happened. Obviously the industry didn't listen, it never does. And that's why we're now in a world where Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live announces its shutdown in the very same tweet and announces its global launch. There's something deeper at play though than just me being right about shit yet again. We should never look at stuff in isolation. As I like to say, things don't happen in a bubble. Which brings me back to my opening sentiment that the entire world of media has descended into, what was it?
Madness. Madness and stupidity.
What we're seeing in the games industry is just one part of an overall descent into mayhem that's occurring across entertainment. As our media becomes more contrived and convoluted to access across countless subscription services, just wait till they start offering packages, movies are being yanked out of circulation just weeks after release, and finished productions aren't being released at all because the world's gone so fucking bananas it could be more lucrative not to sell your product.
This is crazy.
This is why I've not been so quick to laugh at Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live as others have, although I have done a bit. Because if we pull the camera back to focus on the entire landscape of entertainment, the most horrifically bizarre thing about Love Live School Idol Festival 2 Miracle Live is how its situation is not all that bizarre anymore in the context of a landscape that includes HBO relaunching itself about a dozen times, or Animaniacs being on Hulu instead of something owned by the literal Warner Brothers, and of course everything involving the DC universe. Hell, patch culture's even threatening to come to movies. Remember Cats? Sorry I made you remember Cats. The world of entertainment has gotten more confusing than that time I watched Naomi Watts wanking and crying in Mulholland Drive and tried to wank over it but ended up crying instead.
Relatable.
Focusing just on games does an injustice to the scattered anarchic horror show going on across all of media and how it all informs each other. The concept of personal ownership of the things you buy is becoming more and more muddied by subscriptions and streaming, and that's being further compounded by mere access itself being a fleeting privilege rather than a reliable fair expectation. There's not much fundamental difference between a movie being pulled from Disney Plus and an online-reliant game shutting the servers down. Different instruments, same tune. As much as I despise the whole live service fad and have revelled in games like Babylon's Fall failing as hard as they deserved, I'm tempted to give Celebration pause when I consider how disturbed I am when a TV show or a movie is yanked, even if it's something I don't entirely like. Of course, a major difference is the live service fad was vile in general, motivated as it was by false promises and financial predation, and that's why I chose my words carefully and said online-reliant games earlier, because this could happen to other games, ones that aren't unfinished pieces of shit, but nonetheless would become all but useless if they went offline. One of my favourite games last year was Karmazoo, but if the online shut down tomorrow, the remaining game would be a husk. We needn't hypothesize though. Looking back over the past several decades, looking at like the proper old Star Wars MMO or like the first Aliens vs Predator, we've seen what happens to online games once their servers go offline. Now a lot of shutdowns in the past have come down to age. They just get really old and then the support goes away, which brings up its own discussion about what the statute of limitations is on that sort of shit, but we'll get into that another day. The normalization of access revocation couldn't have come at a better time for the companies that don't seemingly profit off it, running as it is alongside the redefinition of what buying something means. And of course, the coinciding but not coincidental things couldn't have come at a worse time for the rest of us poor fuck imps. One thing I will give the bastards is that I'm kind of impressed by the goal. With all the subscriptions, all the in-app purchases, all the self-serving services, the entertainment industry wants us to invest in their products more than ever, yet the incentive to invest anything, either emotionally, intellectually or financially, couldn't be lower. Why invest your heart into a TV show when Netflix will just cancel it after a season or two? Why invest thought into a movie you might not be quick enough to see before it's yanked from distribution for whatever inane reason? Why invest financially into a video games economy when said game and everything you bought could become thoroughly meaningless at the flip of a switch? The fucking nerve of them. I guess video game executives are being their best selves, just not giving a fuck. Though of course an executive's best self is still among humanity's worst.
We should talk about games dying of old age, so to speak. Games I mentioned where the online access was just taken away because it was so long since the game had been out. And we should talk about the statute of limitations and what that means for games. Karmazoo, one of my favourite games of last year, as I said, will be sort of unplayable one day. At least, getting the actual point of the game, because it is a small game. It's a wonderful game, but not one that exploded mainstream. The player base for that will just disappear one day, and then that's that. Owning games in perpetuity is something that's always been on shaky ground when we consider that games often can't be played in perpetuity and will become increasingly less likely to be so. So that is something we definitely need to think about, but until then, thank God for me, and we'll see you next week.